Podcasting since 2005. This is the King of Podcasts radio network. kingofpodcasts.com.
Some of those OnlyFans models getting a little bit cloudy with their content. Are they really nothing more than prostitutes?
We're all a little depraved and debaucherous. Here is the King of Podcasts.
Welcome to the program. King of Podcasts here with you. Website is kingofpodcasts.com, and I would direct all of you to go to my YouTube page. If you can, go for the website. You'll see a link there, or just go to YouTube and look for @King of Podcasts. If you do a search for OnlyFans on my page, you'll see I've been talking about this since 2020. We've tracked it down. Between 2020 and 2022 was the real evolution of OnlyFans because it was a means to make money. But then there were those that decided to stay on the platform after that. And the continuation of what's happened. And for a while, there was a little bit of this hesitancy among content creators that were a little bit perturbed about the idea that they might be looked at as prostitutes or sex workers because of what they were doing on the platform. But of course, this year, everything just blew up because we started getting models on here that absolutely just did not care. The door was blown wide open. Lily Phillips, Bonnie Blue, among others, getting all caught up into the game of OnlyFans and saying, you know what, doesn't matter. We're just going to get more into it as it ever was before. Lily, as me, Annie Knight as well into that mix. That was all going on. And it changed. You know, we have women now going after major sex challenges. Bonnie Blue with 1,057 men. We talked about it in February. And then we started talking about the others that are on here that are very sexually minded going on. And that was from last month, when I talked about Sophie Rain and the kind of vibe she gave for being more of the virgin type, the babyface billionaire fantasy. And with Bonnie Blue being the other side, being leather-clad dominatrix of digital depravity. It was all that's going on here. But a lot of money being made. But at this point, we're starting to hear some rumblings where OnlyFans models and content creators on OnlyFans are now they're going to be tagged as prostitutes or sex workers, whether you like it or you don't. So a story came out in all places, Sweden. So OnlyFans right now could be considered prostitution, according to the country of Sweden. So here's what they're saying so far. They're referring to a story, first of all, of a woman named Sina Hodenfant saying she needed to get and provide for her 4 children. Another woman talking about how she has 6 children at home, Mirka Nordstrom, and OnlyFans was their way of making money at the time. And Nordstrom says that we don't sell sex. She's been on OnlyFans for 3 years. And again, these are mothers getting on the OnlyFans and trying to make themselves out there. They say that they are selling a dream, a fantasy, or a video, or an image. They are completely different things. Now the Swedish government is coming in and categorizing custom pornography as a form of prostitution, extending to the internet legislation that has already been banning buying sex in person. So now, in 1999, Sweden passed the Sex Purchase Act. It's the first country to make it illegal to buy sex, but not to sell it. The Nordic model, as we hear about, protecting women from prosecution and targeting men who pay for sex. Now, this most recent amendment of Swedish law would end what they would say is buying sex, even remotely, as a form of exploitation, and selling it, even in the virtual world, is a form of prostitution. If Sweden does this, this will possibly be the key that picks the lock. We could see precedent here that could go to other countries. What other countries in Europe and eventually to the U.S.? Keep an eye on this, and that's what I'm going to do as we do this here on Depraved and Debaucherous. Now, this would make in Sweden OnlyFans illegal, but it would also severely restrict the ability to operate and halt main selling point for a fee that users can find the exact porn that they want. The Minister of Gender Equality, Nina Larson, says the sex industry was, quote, moving online into the digital world, and the legislation needs to follow suit. That's a big deal here if that actually happens. And just to give an idea of the kind of money being made here in this here, we've talked about the Bop House when we talked about Sophie Rain. You have 8 young women there in the Bop House, millions of followers doing free dance videos on TikTok, and the members have drawn users to their explicit pay-to-use profiles, earning them, according to here, Elle Magazine says, 32 million euros a year. So that's what, $36 million? It's big money, big money in a year. So the new law also would say in no way takes into account the fact that this is a legal profession that has been any of a pensionable income for 8 years. Now, OnlyFans has begun to withdraw from Sweden, removing the chat services, and that followers cannot reach out to some of these women now anymore, according to Nordstrom, and it's still a very big thing to be able to write to your followers and create some kind of contact with them. So this right here, Sweden, who would have thought? The proponents of the Nordic model of prostitution. Now they're looking to go ahead and make it where it's considered prostitution and will be made illegal. OnlyFans can be taken down because of this. So here is what I say about it, because Kara Pudafont says here that she now knows several people who have gone back into selling physical sex. It is usually a greater risk for you as a person to sell physical sex than it is to sit and work from home. People who have only worked online have no experience in that. They have no knowledge of how to do it in a safe and secure way. People are going to die, they say. So the Swedish government has not met sex workers to discuss their concerns. But this is also a very interesting thought process. What if the Swedish government is able to go and pull this off here, get this amendment in here to the Swedish Sex Purchase Act, this Nordic model of prostitution, and they're telling you it's illegal for you to do the OnlyFans content. You can't have that site out there. And if there's any other sites like that, they're also going to get penalized the same way, which means if you're going to have sex, it's got to be out in the open, in public. How many women out there would be concerned if they couldn't do the kind of sex work they're doing right now in the closed home environment, in their company, in the confinement of their homes? And if they have to go and keep doing sex work, they have to go out to go do it. It's a very interesting question. So let me repeat that one more time. If this were to happen, this is a big deal, and it could very well happen. So custom pornography would be categorized as a form of prostitution, extending to the internet that already bans buying sex in person. So OnlyFans would become illegal and severely restrict ability to operate, and that you would have to go back and go out and go back to the oldest profession and have to make money with your body with other people. You just can't do it behind a camera online anymore. To remove the virtual aspect of OnlyFans and the porn and the prostitution type field that it gives, because it's transactional at the end of the day for those users that are buying content from these models, these content creators. If they can't do this, they know they can use their bodies to go ahead and get money that they need, whatever discretionary income or whatever income they need. Will they go out in the street and sell their bodies without the help of OnlyFans? I think everybody should be paying attention to this. If Sweden does something here, I would be not shocked by it. Because in a way, for guys, this would be good. Because the Nordic model actually, in a way, would still kind of help out. Because then, in this particular case, prostitution would be still illegal. But in the ways of how they have it, where if women are going to go ahead and ask for money, if they want to go and get back to the old-fashioned profession, that's how it's going to go. I mean, you're still going to take the risk of getting together with a girl and having to go and pay, but it's the guys that will take the hit. They'll take the risk. But the women can still go out there and do what they want and be protected. I mean, legally protected, not necessarily physically protected. Of course, that's a different story in itself. And I'm not downplaying the risks or the hazard that women are going to have to go through if this amendment were to pass. I'm not diminishing that part at all. But the thing is that is it really prostitution? When you think about it, yeah, it's a safer way for women to go and do it, but it's not detrimental for anybody else. It's still mentally hurting those that are in it. Because the thing is, by having OnlyFans, being able to go and have this sex work content and where there is no interaction physically, then there's a thought process that is acceptable. That women could continue to do this here and feel like, well, there's no risk to it when there should be. Like, when people do things online in general, we already know that about social media, that if people go online and put something out there, they don't really feel like there's a risk. They don't feel like there's any responsibility for what they're going to say because they're hidden behind a computer screen. They got a keyboard in front of them. Keyboard warriors. We hear that phrase all the time. It's because you feel like nothing's ever going to happen to you. And yeah, if you get doxxed, then that's exactly when you'll find out something's going to happen to you. But people get into social media and get on the places like OnlyFans without understanding the risks involved. If someone were to find you and learn about you, and they can go ahead and interact with you, it's like a celebrity with a stalker. They think, oh, you're untouchable. No, you're probably not. So imagine if a woman, if they wanted to go and continue to go and live the lifestyle that they have, according to all these other women that are here, and they couldn't do it online. That would actually be good for the case of filtering out those women that should not be able to go ahead and get in here because they don't have what it takes to do this kind of profession if they had to go out and work on a stripper's pole or work at a massage parlor, go out on the street. But there's so many stories about the success rate here and how the OnlyFans stars that are on here are quite delusional, unfortunately. Because I think, in a way, taking the online barrier away from this, it deters more women from being OnlyFans models. And you know what? They got to go back to actually dating. They actually have to go back, and if they want to go and make money, if they want to sell their body for whatever, then they got to do it like every other woman had to do for hundreds of years, for decades, for centuries. A story from Bored Panda has the story of a 21-year-old OnlyFans star that said her parents helped fund her X-rated career. She's 21 years old, Skylar May. This is a new woman that we've heard about here recently that's getting a lot of press right now. She left her dental nursing studies in favor of an X-rated career that pays her $18,000 a month. It helps her look after her parents and helps her buy a lot of different luxuries things. The parents are deeply involved. They help her buy lingerie, they're winning at shoots, and even flaunting her stage name. May says she's more reserved than her family and sets boundaries on what she does. She says her dad is so proud she even has her stage name tattooed on his arm. The mother drops her off at photo shoots and waits for her. And when she's staying at a hotel for work, they check in on her. She went on to say that even though her family is open and supportive of her way of earning money, there are boundaries and that she does not talk about everything. That she says she might be a little bit more reserved. Like I said, this story has been getting out there quite a bit, They say that both parents are suffering from health issues and the money helps her to afford to foot any medical expenses that arise. And you can tell when I look at her, she definitely gives that feel of a Sophie Rain type, another virgin type, which that's the idea of some of this is that the fantasy, they either want a woman that's going to be a complete whore or to go on the other route of how they're completely prude and never promiscuous. Nothing even close like that. But they are suggestive. One of the things they put out there to kind of get the press up about it is she says that once her grandma heard about what she was doing, she wanted to be part of the success and bought her a cute rhinestone lingerie set from Amazon. She's 21 years old, by the way. And now she's in it. And again, $18,000 a month. About that. But there's another thing that has to be said about where some of the models that are here getting to be part of this, you don't want them to be a part of this because there's a lot of things that are dangerous about it. And that's the part about if you got people to go into the open and talk more about it. So there's a story that came out from Lad Bible about OnlyFans star Layla Kelly. That she has issues over creepy new trend that leading creators violated. So now, Layla Kelly shared a warning about other adult content creators and saying that there are men pretending to be women to gain access to free content. So, for example, they're feigning interest in getting a boob job and asking for inspiration pictures from the creator. Now, Layla says these instances are not a dime a dozen, but she was concerned about the images the men were using, as the woman had not likely consented to having a profile on OnlyFans. So they're using other pictures from outside OnlyFans and just posing as another woman out there to get things from the men on the sites. Posing as women. That's not good. She says that what bothers me the most about this is the clothed and unclothed images of the women they are using to pull this off. One guy sent her a wedding photo paired with a driving license, and she knew it had to be his wife or sister, and she highly doubted she knew what she was up to. And then she'll ask these men to prove who they are, but none of them ever do, and tries to say, well, this is against terms of service. They'll be sending photos of anyone but themselves, but they can't consent to that. But then there are others that are on here that are posing as who they are and using wedding photos or ID cards to convince that they're real. Layla Kelly is a New Zealand OnlyFans star, very popular in New Zealand. Now, she also says, while roleplay itself isn't the issue, there's a version of this that crosses the line. Quotes, I personally don't have a problem with people to pretend to be someone else. If that's their fetish, that's okay. When it crosses the line is when someone who hasn't consented or given permission is having their identity and photos used unknowingly. You don't think about that. If you have guys out there that have interacted with different girls virtually and they have collected a lot of different content, whether it's videos or photos, yeah, I can see where that can be done. I can totally see that being done. Lucy Banks, who is a former adult performer and has a marketing agency for creators, says that often the motivation, quote, is to try and get free content out of you, but they don't realize who they are, and it happens all the time, so we can see it a mile away. So some messages that might come in will be into deeply fetishized territory. One subscriber pretending to be a woman asking graphic detailed questions about gynecological exams, going on and on about speculums and internal examinations. You could tell straight away it was a guy. So there's another thing that's going on that people got to be aware of. It could be happening. So that's also gotten a lot of traction out there as well. And at the same time, some of the images being used as well are nude images, and who knows if the women have given consent to that or not, which I'm pretty much sure they probably didn't. And one of the things that a lot of these more popular OnlyFans models have been doing now is they're hiring third-party companies to run their accounts, providing chatters to handle all the creators' private messages. So they might not even know what's going on here at all. So keep in mind that too. If you're chatting with some of these OnlyFans models, it might be somebody else that's not the actual model, but it might be somebody else posing as. So one particular professional chatter hired by OnlyFans models is a 27-year-old man from Venezuela. So with some of them that are making so much money, then, yeah, they're going to third-party companies to run their pages. And manage their careers, if you want to say that. So there's a lot being behind this online barrier that you don't know what's going on, and you're not sure what could be happening. But again, it's a lot of delusion that's going on here with the women that are on here, thinking they can just go and keep making money like this and it's going to stay like this forever. What needs to be understood is this, is that for women that are on here on OnlyFans thinking this money train is going to continue forever, no, there's a reason why women before OnlyFans, before online, had to go ahead and go find their ways to say, okay, they might get in their phase of being a sugar baby, to find a sugar daddy, or they go work at a strip club, or they go work in other places, or they might go out there and, find themselves as an escort, whatever there might be they could do to find ways to make ends meet. Before we had this thing of the pretty privilege, before we had the Instagram pages that all these women can go ahead and show themselves off and have guys simp like crazy over. Before we had all that, women just had to go and use what they had to get what they wanted out there in the wild. That's what they had to do. And guess what? Those women would not do that for a long time. They would do it long enough, and then you know what? The phase would go. But that's the problem here, is that we're going to start seeing some women think that they can continue doing this forever because they can sit behind a line, behind filters, behind the internet, behind filters, and they can continue to go ahead and think they can go ahead and get as much money as they can possibly and do content. Another OnlyFans star talking about wanting to restore her hymen and return back to her Mormon roots. Stupid, but okay. A Texas OnlyFans star wants to undergo hymen restoration surgery in a bid to return to her Mormon roots. A decision that she claims will make her late husband proud. Holly Jane's her name, and she talked with Jam Press of her plan to win the block back on her sex life. She's a 43-year-old mother of 3. She was kicked out of the Mormon church when they found out about her not safe for work high side hustle. Now, she says the idea came to her during prayer as a divine directive, she says. She says, quote, I had a moment in prayer where I felt God speaking to me saying, you are not broken, go and be restored. So, by the way, she has 1.6 million Instagram followers. She is planning to undergo a hymenoplasty. There we go. Known as hymen repair, in which the surgeon sews together the torn edges of a woman's hymen with dissolvable stitches. Jesus, that sounds painful. $3,000 procedure. It would be considered to her a sacred rebirth. Now, she insists her vaginal rejuvenation op is not meant to shame or judge people who enjoy sex, but restoring a sense of freedom. Now, she did this after something happened where her husband died in an accident, and she was 31 years old in 2017, and she was left a widow. And she thought that going online and doing things like OnlyFans would be a way to heal, and that she's not trying to erase her wonderful deceased husband or what they had together. So that's her plan of that. Stupid, but okay. That's what they want to feel like doing? Fine, whatever. Now, there's a guy I follow quite a bit, and I haven't seen him much lately because he's gotten very popular. Get to the point, bro. So it's like when he goes through and there's stories about women that have their issues and what they've gone through or whatever kind of videos they go through, the guy will take whatever a woman's rant is and he'll basically sum it up in about 5 seconds. And then he'll tell you how much the video was, so you don't have to go and do anything about it. So he took one particular video to go ahead and talk about this, that he said this about when it comes to women and dating and single women in general. Quote, some women have been single for so long they don't date anymore. They grant you access to their peaceful little empire like a reluctant queen handing you a visitor's badge. You text her good morning, and when she's already annoyed, like, why are you disturbing the sacred silence of my personal growth journey? He says, bro, she's been sleeping diagonally in her bed for 3 years. She's not giving up that territory because you opened up the door and paid for coffee. You plan a cute date. She's thinking that sounds nice, but I could also stay home, deep clean my apartment, do a 12-step skincare routine, order sushi, and not have to listen to a man breathe. You try to check in emotionally. How are you feeling? She's feeling fantastic because you're not here. You're not competing with other guys. There are no other guys. You're competing with her weighted blanket, her peace, her cat named Chairman Meow, and the simple joy of not having to share her fries. They're just some of the best lines from this nearly 2-minute rant. That's where he comes from. I'll go and play it for you.
Some women have been single for so long they don't date anymore. They grant you access to their peaceful little empire like a reluctant queen, handing you a visitor's badge. You text her good morning and she's already annoyed like why are you disturbing the sacred silence of my personal growth journey? You think you're gonna be her boyfriend? Bro, she's sleeping diagonally in her bed for 3 years. She's not giving up that territory because you opened the door and paid for a coffee. Her vibe is I love the idea of you, but your physical presence is kind of ruining my aesthetic. You plan a cute date. She's thinking that sounds nice, but also I could stay home, deep clean my apartment, do a 12-step skincare routine, order sushi, and not have to listen to a man breathe.
So that's him actually saying it. I figured I want you to hear that for yourselves. Now, when you have these kind of things going on all together, I wanted to make that point here after the whole OnlyFans thing, is that it's an attachment to the fact of why are women going to OnlyFans to use their bodies for what they want? Because, you know, part of it is a transactional type of dating for a lot of women has not worked. And they don't want to go ahead and deal with the interaction. They're not prepared, nor are they capable of handling the interaction. We don't know why that is, but I can imagine there's a couple of reasons why. Binghamton University, State University of New York, they put out a study that says that men with toxic masculinity are more likely to make sexual advances without consent. And the research reveals that some men have have difficulty deciphering passive responses during hookups. Now, the story's been out here, but I figured I'd bring this up because it's popped up as a new story, but been from last year. But research from Binghamton University, they show that men differ in how they interpret their types of responses. Men who display toxic or hostile masculinity, known as toxic masculinity, tend to act on them regardless of whether or not they think it's consensual. They talk to men between 18 and 25. Okay, just by only going for those younger men, you have guys that at that age, it's regardless of the fact that they have not had the rite of passage, nor have they been very sexually active with women. There's a toxic masculinity with them because they have not learned how to be grown-up men in the ways that, like myself and others, young, older than them, have learned. Because in today's climate, guys, they might turn out toxically masculine because they're not equipped with maybe the sex education, with the wherewithal, or they've been a little bit feminized themselves. They've gotten soft. They're a little bit more sassy. Some of the guys that have made it through have more hair product and a little bit more care for themselves than some of the women they are with. And the women and what they've been taught on social media, they're not equipped to go ahead and handle any relationships. So if anybody gets together with somebody, it doesn't last at all because everything is so short term. No one has the attention span. No one has the understanding of what they're doing with themselves. And that's normal, but it's like the awkward phase of dating, awkward phase of sex for the first time. That's not happening until too late. So guys' frustrations are caught into play. Men and women not having a mother or father or just a dominant and submissive type to grow up with, to learn from, to see what it's actually like as role models, they're not learning about that either. So in this particular study, they say that a passive response to a sexual advance is a normative indicator of consent, but also might reflect distress or fear. Whether men are able to differentiate between the two during a hookup was important to explore. So they varied for the men in their perception of passive responses in terms of consent, and the level of perceived consent was strongly linked to an increased likelihood of continuing or advancing sexual behavior. That men differed, they're saying in layman's terms, in how they interpreted an ambiguous female response to the sexual advances with respect to their perception of consent, which in turn influenced their sexual decisions. And that hostile masculinity is distinct from toxic masculinity. Hostile is a specific pathological profile of masculine attitudes and personality traits that have been repeatedly linked to sexual misconduct. So, individuals who experience a need for sexual dominance over women incline towards violence and hostile attitudes regarding women, accepting rape myths, which are stereotypical beliefs about sexual assault and why it occurs. Yeah. Other traits as part of this is including psychopathy, narcissism, and callous or unemotional orientations towards others, tending to regularly present individuals with hostile masculinity. And that these individuals are at high risk of engaging in sexual assault, an essay. Right. Nothing new here. This is something we probably already know about. But for men and women across the board, there are a lot of men that are confused here. That most important, it's all this that goes on line. Sliding in the DMs, hitting people about Instagram or Snapchat instead of just phone calls or texts, and actually meeting each other and connecting with each other. While the dating apps are not helping. As long as we have this divide, this wall of the internet that's keeping everyone apart, then no wonder guys are not learning how to go ahead and be sexually active or responsible and knowing how to go and treat a woman. They don't have the experience at this point now at 18 to 25 years old like many other guys might have had. It's changed. And these girls now, quite a few of these young, beautiful girls that are on here on OnlyFans, yeah, they're not understanding anything at all because the fantasy of trying to make money with what they have and not even caring about, the sex that they have or being sexually active just to kind of be aware of who they are and have some experience in life. Like all your experience is based on what you do online. That's horrible. And I never thought it was something that felt good about the fact that, okay, women have to go and do this kind of stuff here. Like, you know, if a guy wants to see a girl naked or do things with them sexually, then do the right thing to get yourself in the right place so you can be with a girl, take her clothes off, have sex with her, have fun. Not this online stuff that's going on here with OnlyFans where every other guy could find the same thing. And, you know, this whole idea that guys are on OnlyFans as users, all ogling over the same girl. And it's as if all these other girls that are out here are non-existent because they're only looking at a girl that looks like this girl on OnlyFans, and they might want to just find somebody that hopefully looks like them, or if they can get with them. It's not good altogether. One last story I want to bring up before we wrap things up. A story about a sugar daddy in Singapore, now in jail because he gave a minor cash for sex and threatened to post her explicit videos online. So, a man in Singapore offered to pay a teenager $1,500 a month to be her sugar daddy after he came across the girl's sexually explicit video, which was shared on a messaging platform. Now, this girl's 17 years old, has a history of being suicidal. He extorted her into sending him another sexually explicit video after threatening to report her for drug abuse. And he also threatened to upload other videos of hers onto a porn website. The 33-year-old Singaporean sentenced to 3 years and 10 weeks in jail and ordered to receive 3 strokes of the Singapore cane. It's just same with the fact of the guys in Singapore having to get hit with a Singapore cane for being a sugar daddy and extorting a young girl, poor thing, for more sexually explicit stuff. It's funny how part of the punishment is 3 strokes of the Singapore cane. How depraved and debaucherous.